Hello everyone, welcome back to the News Telefact YT channel. Please subscribe and like my videos. Today, we have a fascinating and dramatic story to dissect. The new record, Ukraine rocks 60 strategic Russian energy in 6 weeks. Over the past month and a half, Ukraine appears to have made major strides in disrupting, reducing, or seizing control over some 60 strategic energy assets or energy flows from Russia. In this review I'll walk you through the exterior, the big picture context and how this was made public, then dive deep into the interior, the underlying mechanisms, infrastructure, logistics, politics, and operations. Then we'll examine performance, how effective are these moves, the measurable outcomes, followed by safety features, meaning the risks, safeguards, and vulnerabilities. Then I'll go over unique selling points, what makes this particular campaign or record remarkable, then discuss price, the costs, both financial and strategic, and finally sum up with a conclusion. To begin with the exterior, stepping back, the announcement of 60 strategic Russian energy targets in 6 weeks catches the eye because of its scale and speed. In the high-stakes arena of energy warfare during the Russia-Ukraine conflict, energy infrastructure and supply lines are not just economic assets but levers of power, leverage, and control. Public media, government statements, and intelligence leaks have all played a role in shaping the narrative that Ukraine has mounted a highly coordinated blitz of operations aimed at degrading or capturing key Russian energy nodes. These targets might include pipelines, gas processing plants, electricity transmission hubs, energy storage sites, fuel depots, or logistical corridors. The timing is critical. 6 weeks is a short window to claim impact on so many critical energy points. To the outside observer, this reads like a tactical coup, a campaign to shift energy dependency, sow disruption, and apply pressure on Russia's energy dominance. On the surface, this record functions as both a strategic message, signaling capability, resolve, and reach, and a morale booster domestically and internationally. The announcement alone changes perceptions, that Ukraine is not only defending ground but striking back decisively in the energy domain. Now let's shift into the interior, the heart of what this means, how it might be done, and what it implies, with deeper detail. Internally, orchestrating a campaign that accounts for 60 strategic energy points in 6 weeks demands a fusion of intelligence, logistics, engineering, cyber capabilities, and covert operations. First, you need intelligence. You must map out which Russian energy nodes are critical infrastructure, supply, flow, control points, and determine vulnerabilities. That involves satellite imagery, signal intercepts, human intelligence spies, informants, sabotage networks, drone reconnaissance, and perhaps insider cooperation. You would identify pipelines, compressor stations, regulator stations, transformer substations, fuel depots, gas storage caverns, step-down stations in electricity grids, or strategic energy control centers. Second, planning and coordination. For each target, you need mission plans, which asset to strike, how, when, by whom. Some might be attacked physically via artillery, missiles, drones, or sabotage teams, others might be disrupted via cyber attacks, remote switching, software manipulation, or supply chain interference. Some might be seized or repurposed, rather than destroyed. Third, logistics. Deploying personnel, drones, missiles, special forces, or cyber teams into the zones of action without getting interdicted. That requires secure corridors, logistical support, supply lines, backup, extraction. Plans. Some operations may require infiltration deep into hostile territory or crossing front lines or no man's land. Fourth, cyber and electronic warfare. Many modern energy systems are digitally controlled. Disrupting SCADA systems, compromising control software, sending false commands, disabling sensors, or corrupting data flows can incapacitate a plant without physical damage. A combination of physical strikes and cyber disruption is more efficient, less messy, and leaves room for quick recovery if advantage shifts. Fifth, coordination with air and artillery support. In contested zones, to suppress enemy counterattacks, create diversions, or keep enemy forces pinned while sabotage or cyber teams do their work. Also managing the risk of collateral damage or civilian infrastructure, to avoid backlash. Sixth, risk management and redundancy. Each operation must take into account enemy air defense, counterintelligence, possible leaks, or counterattacks that may reverse gains. Also ensure that own territory or infrastructure aren't exposed. Seventh, intelligence feedback and iteration. After each strike or disruption, Monitor how Russia reacts, whether they reroute, repair, defend, or retaliate, and adapt the strategy dynamically. Some targets might be hit multiple times, some might require holding them rather than simply disabling them, others might need to be controlled or neutralized. Also, balancing surprise and secrecy. Too much success leaks signals, too many failures leak vulnerabilities. 8th, strategic prioritization. Not all 60 targets are equal. Some may be high-value nodes whose disruption cascades into regional or national energy shortages. Others may be lower priority, perhaps to force dispersion of Russian repair resources or sow confusion. Ukraine likely prioritized assets that would maximize damage to Russian energy export, domestic supply, or logistical supply to forward units. 9th, Allied support. Operations of this scale likely rely on international intelligence sharing, access to satellite data, electronic warfare support, drone tech, cyber tools, foreign military aid including missiles or long-range strike systems. Ukraine might have leveraged Western allies to feed imagery, signals intelligence, jamming capabilities, or spare parts. 10th, resilience and cover plans. Anticipating that some operations will fail or be reversed, Ukraine would need fallback plans to re-execute or protect friendly disruptive gains. Maintaining plausible deniability or ambiguity may also help avoid escalation. Some operations might be clandestine rather than overt. In terms of internal interconnections, these operations are not isolated. Hitting one pipeline or storage facility might cascade and put pressure on a network of connected nodes. The interior dynamics also include how the Russian side tries to respond. Repair crews, security forces, counter-cyber operations, rerouting flows, backup lines, redundancy, and contingency operations. The speed and coordination needed internally is immense. To do 60 in 42 days is more than one strike or disruption per day on average. That suggests either simultaneous multi-point operations or a pipeline of missions already in motion. Now let's talk performance. How well have these moves worked, what metrics and evidence exist, and how to interpret success or failure. By performance, we look at measurable outcomes. How many of the 60 claimed energy targets are verified to have been disabled, captured, degraded, or coerced? How much energy throughput gas, oil, electricity has been reduced or rerouted? How much revenue loss that causes for Russia? How much disruption to Russian internal energy supply or military logistics, and how fast recovery has been or will be? Public, open sources may report that several pipeline segments are offline following mystery outages, or that certain compressor stations are down, or that electricity supply in Russian rear areas is unstable. Perhaps satellite imagery confirms damage to pump stations, or there are field reports of local blackouts or fuel shortages. Also, Russian energy companies may issue repair orders or reduce expected export volumes, implying successful interference. Another performance metric is temporal endurance. Are these disruptions long-lasting, or are many being fixed quickly? If Ukraine can re-hit or defend these nodes, the strategic gain is durable. If repairs are swift, the gains are fleeting. Also, the breadth. If the 60 targets span multiple sectors, gas, oil, electricity, pipelines, storage, it suggests Ukraine is not just doing isolated hits but a coordinated energy warfare campaign across domains. Another metric, ripple effects. Does Russia respond by reducing energy exports elsewhere, reallocating resources, increasing security overhead, diverting maintenance budgets, or shifting supply routes? If Russia is forced to divert capital and manpower to defend or repair, that is a force multiplier. Another measure, diplomatic and economic pressure. If international markets or Europe show signs of energy supply shifts, or Russia's bargaining power in energy diplomacy weakens, Ukraine's campaign may be influencing the larger strategic equilibrium. Also, propaganda and morale. The claim of 60 targets in 6 weeks is meant to bolster domestic support, deter Russian narratives, and appeal to allies for further backing. A more subtle performance dimension is surprise and initiative. Ukraine is seizing the momentum in energy warfare rather than passively defending. That initiative can force Russia into reactive posture rather than proactive. The psychological impact of speed and scale also matters. If adversaries believe Ukraine can strike deep into energy networks, deterrence value is increased. However, performance is not without counterfactuals and caveats. Maybe some of the claimed 60 are minor, or some are repeating the same nodes in parts, or some are symbolic rather than substantive. Also, success in the short run may be reversed with counterattacks or mass repairs. Quantitative verification may lag or be contested. So while performance appears impressive, it must be tempered by scrutiny and independent confirmation. Turning now to safety features. In this context, safety refers to safeguards, risk mitigation, and protective measures built into such a large-scale energy operation campaign. The more robust the risk controls, the more likely successes are preserved and losses minimized. First, operational security (OPSEC) is paramount. Ensuring mission plans, target lists, timings, forces involved, and infiltration routes remain secret prevents compromise. Using compartmentalization, each team only knows its portion, not the full plan, helps reduce leaks. Also, use of secure communication channels, encryption, one-time pads, or hardened systems reduces the risk of interception. Second, redundancy and fallback. Any individual mission failing should not disrupt the whole campaign. Teams should have backup routes, alternative assets, or secondary methods, e.g. if drone fails, sabotage team still acts. Resilient command structure ensures operations continue even if someone is lost or compromised. Third, risk assessment for collateral damage. Energy infrastructure often lies near civilian zones. To prevent civilian casualties or unintended outages, missions must plan to minimize collateral harm. Misjudgments could provoke backlash, humanitarian crisis, or reputation damage. So choosing bursts or cyber disruption rather than indiscriminate bombing is safer. Fourth, force protection. Safeguarding operatives from counterattacks, intercepts, or enemy forces. Ensuring extraction plans, air support, suppression of enemy defenses, jamming enemy sensors, or diversion operations to mask main actions. Fifth, cybersecurity safeguards on your own side. The Ukrainian side must shield its own command, control, and intelligence systems from Russian or third-party infiltration or retaliation. If Ukraine runs cyber operations, the controllers themselves must be secured, with air-gapped systems or layered defenses. Sixth, strategic deconfliction. Avoid escalation or provocation beyond intended thresholds. Some targets may be in contested or internationally sensitive zones, striking them might provoke retaliation or diplomatic blowback. Safety features include selecting targets with lower risk of triggering unwanted escalation. Seventh, legal and diplomatic buffers. Framing actions under war prerogatives, just war logic, or carefully timed disclosures to allies to reduce political risk. Also, protecting civilian energy supply in Ukrainian zones so locals are not punished for the operations. Eighth, sustainability, ensuring operations don't overextend resources or exhaust teams. Resting, rotating, maintaining supply chains for munitions, repair parts, intelligence refresh, morale, all part of safe stamina. Ninth, detection and deception, employing decoys, false signals, jamming enemy surveillance, camouflage, or diversionary operations to mislead enemy about where and when main attacks will occur. This helps protect the real operations. Overall, the safety features help reduce losses, prevent mission compromise, and increase the chance that those 60 operations succeed and hold. Turning to the unique selling points, what makes this record and campaign stand out compared to typical wartime or energy warfare actions? 1. The sheer scale and rapidity. 60 strategic energy points in 6 weeks is a high-tempo, highly ambitious target. That scale suggests that Ukraine now has not only a capable strike force but the coordination, capacity, and reach to operate across many domains simultaneously. 2. Cross-sector penetration. If flights include pipelines, power grids, gas, fuel storage, digital control systems, integrating infrastructure domains, that shows a matured doctrine of energy warfare rather than ad hoc attacks. 3. Combination of kinetic and cyber means. Rather than just missile strikes, the campaign likely uses a hybrid model: drones, sabotage, cyber attacks, infiltration, increasing efficiency and stealth, reducing dependency on mass firepower. 4. Strategic messaging. This record is a narrative weapon, not just operational. It sends signal to Russia, to the world, and to potential allies about Ukraine's capacity beyond defensive moves. It reframes Ukraine as capable of offensive, deep strategic disruption. 5. Asymmetrical leverage. Disrupting energy as a force multiplier. Rather than trying to fight on all fronts militarily, targeting energy leverages complexity, fragility, and dependency, striking where infrastructure is vulnerable and interdependent. 6. Resilience and adaptivity. If these moves are not one-off but part of an evolving campaign that adapts to Russian repairs and countermeasures, then the approach is not just a set of raids but a sustainable campaign. 7. Diplomatic and economic impact. unlike territory gains only, energy disruption has ripple effects in markets, diplomacy, sanctions, perceptions. It potentially forces Russia to reallocate funds, slow export plans, or bear repair burdens, thereby indirectly aiding Ukrainian interests beyond the battlefield. 8. Morale and psychological warfare. The symbolic force of 60 in 6 inches contributes to morale at home and undermines enemy confidence. It shapes the narrative that Ukraine is not only resisting but striking powerfully. Turning now to price, the costs, both direct and indirect, that come with launching such an ambitious campaign. Direct costs include munitions, drones, missiles, cyber tools, replacement parts, energy for operations, personnel deployment, logistics, fuel, maintenance. These are costly especially in high volume. Each strike or mission may consume expensive ordnance or drone assets, losses must be replaced. Indirect costs include human risk, loss of personnel, capture, injury. Some missions may fail or be compromised, leading to casualties or prisoners. There's reputational risk. If collateral damage or civilian harm occurs, there may be domestic or international backlash. Infrastructure damage to nearby non-target assets may result in reparations or diplomatic costs. Another indirect cost is counter-escalation. Russia might retaliate more forcefully, escalate in other domains, launch energy counterstrikes on Ukraine, or open new fronts. Also, Russia could invest heavily in repair, redundancy, or backup systems, raising the bar for future operations. Another cost is opportunity cost. Resources devoted to this campaign might be diverted from other military needs, defensive sectors, or supply lines. Overcommitment in energy attacks might weaken other fronts. Another price is logistical strain and wear and tear. Sustaining high-tempo operations over 6 weeks depletes stocks, stresses supply chains, and requires continual resupply and maintenance, which can stretch the system. Another is intelligence exposure. The more operations and targeting you do, the greater the chance of leaks, compromise, or enemy learning of your methods. That reveals tactics, capabilities, sources, which adversaries can counter. Another cost is political and diplomatic risk. If some actions cross thresholds of acceptable conduct, damage neutral assets, or provoke international censure, Ukraine might face diplomatic fallout. Also, allies may hesitate if escalation risk is too high. Another cost is potential blowback. Russia might retaliate by targeting Ukraine's own energy infrastructure, civilian grids, or refineries. So there is risk to Ukrainian civilian welfare. Despite those costs, Ukraine might judge the strategic gains outweigh the expenditures, shifting the balance in energy leverage, undermining Russian resilience, forcing diversion of Russian resources, and signaling strength. Finally, let me conclude. This campaign of new record, Ukraine rocks 60 strategic Russian energy in 6 weeks, is bold, high stakes, and transformative in how energy warfare is being integrated into the Russo-Ukraine conflict. On the exterior, it presents a narrative of capability and pressure. On the interior, it reflects massive coordination of intelligence, cyber, logistics, sabotage, and multi-domain operations. Performance metrics will be debated, but the campaign has the potential to inflict real strain on Russian energy flows, undermine revenue, and force defensive posture. The safety features, in operational security, redundancy, risk mitigation, are critical to preserving gains. The unique selling points are scale, precision, hybrid methods, energy leverage, and psychological impact. The price is high, financial, human, strategic, and diplomatic, but perhaps justified if Ukraine holds the initiative. In sum, if Ukraine can maintain pressure, repeat or defend many of these disruptions, and force Russia into a reactive, repair-heavy posture, this endeavor may be a watershed moment in energy warfare. It shifts the battlefield from front lines to power lines, from tanks to pipelines, from border zones to network nodes. Whether the record holds, and whether the gains prove durable, remains to be seen. But the ambition and audacity of 60 strategic energy targets in 6 weeks is itself a signal. Ukraine is not only defending, it is striking strategically where it hurts. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss such breakdowns and analysis. See you in the next video.